For 3 years, Vladimir Putin pushed Ukrainian cities into freezing darkness. Now that darkness is showing up inside Russia. In Belgrad, a wealthy region near the border, electricity and heat have been failing in winter conditions, with temperatures hitting -10 degrees Celsius, around 10 degrees Fahrenheit. But the bigger shock is political. A governor tied to the Kremlin is publicly warning that Moscow's attacks are triggering retaliation that is wrecking his own region. He is demanding the Kremlin stop striking Ukraine because Belgrad is being destroyed by the blowback. In Moscow, the reaction is fury. Putin is treating the message like betrayal and calling the governor a traitor to Russia. The energy war did not stay abroad. It crossed the line and came home. I'm Andrew Collins, and you're watching my channel. If this report is useful, please like, subscribe, comment, and share. It helps more people find the story, and it keeps this kind of coverage moving. Now here is what is happening, in order, and why it matters. First, the ground truth in Belgrad is simple and brutal. The power goes out and the heat goes with it. Residents are dealing with repeated blackouts, not as an isolated incident, but as a daily pattern. When centralized heating drops, entire buildings go cold at once. When electricity fails, even small workarounds become harder. And it is happening in winter, when nights and mornings punish every hour without heat. Multiple accounts describe apartments where radiators have frozen solid. Water in the pipes turns to ice. People talk about trying to keep a single room warm, sealing drafts, and rationing what they can. Some say they finally stopped trying to save money and bought powerful heaters just to survive the cold. Others describe the basic routine collapsing: no hot water, no stable heating, and sometimes no electricity. And the cold is not limited to -10. One local account says the week ahead will bring temperatures of -15 to -20 degrees below zero. In that kind of weather, a blackout is not only discomfort, it becomes risk, especially for families and older residents. To understand why Belgrad is in this position, you have to remember what the region used to be. Before the war, Belgrad was presented as one of Russia's success stories. It had a strong industrial base and a highly productive agricultural sector. It sat on the border of Ukraine and on railway lines connecting Russia to Europe, which made it a transportation and logistics hub. That meant jobs, functioning infrastructure, and better opportunity than many places outside Moscow. But the same geography that made Belgrad valuable has made it vulnerable. It is right next to Ukraine, within easy striking distance. And once the war turned into an energy war, proximity became the whole problem. The region is close enough that retaliation can land quickly and repeatedly. Here is the loop described by officials and local voices. After Russia strikes Ukrainian cities such as Kyiv, Ukraine responds and Belgrad absorbs the impact. The governor's point is not subtle. He is arguing that Putin's campaign is producing immediate consequences for Russian civilians. For the last 2 months, Ukraine has been systematically striking Belgrad's infrastructure, including power plants, heating facilities, and broader energy systems. The effect is cumulative. Even if a system can be patched once, repeated hits stretch repairs, drain resources, and turn a disruption into a prolonged breakdown. That prolonged breakdown is what you hear in the personal testimony coming out of the region. Local bloggers describe the situation as terrible and impossible to live through. One account describes going 3 days without hot water or heating, with electricity also unreliable. The same voice describes constant missile threat warnings and the fear that comes with them. During one alert, they say they ran as fast as they could and only realized afterward that they had ended up in a building entrance, shaken by how frightening it felt. Another detail matters because it shows how far normal life has slid. One account says authorities do not officially put people onto distance studying, even though a university has no heating. The message to residents is contradictory. Keep going, keep showing up, but do it in buildings that cannot stay warm. That is why some voices say their usual vlogs from Belgrad have stopped. They are not choosing silence. They are describing a situation where daily life has become unworkable. There is also a moral dimension that is hard to miss. Russians are now experiencing what Ukrainians have endured for last 4 years. The difference is that this time the cold and darkness are inside Russia, in Russian homes, and tied directly to Russia's own decisions. That is why the governor's response has become the central development. He is not blaming Ukraine, he is blaming Moscow. After what he described as a detailed analysis by heating and power engineers of the latest destruction to utility facilities, he said publicly that homes in Belgrad connected to centralized heating will not receive hot water until the end of the heating season. That statement is not a forecast of improvement. It is a warning that the failure will last. In the same line of messaging, the governor made another point explicit. Ukraine is not striking Belgrad preemptively. The strikes come after Russia hits Ukrainian cities like Kyiv. And then he went further, urging the Kremlin to stop attacking Ukrainian cities, arguing that the current strategy is directly harming Russians in his own region. He also criticized Moscow's air defenses. The governor said the air defense support being provided is not enough to protect Belgrad. He has repeatedly requested stronger air defenses and was told it is currently impossible. He also described the defensive challenge in blunt terms. Enemy territory is too close, making protection difficult. And out of that frustration came the statement that detonated across Russian information channels. His argument, in plain terms, was that Moscow should not keep bombing if it cannot protect Belgrad from the retaliation that follows. The backlash was immediate. Russian war bloggers treated the governor's words as a political crime. The Russian telegram channel Kremlin Snuffbox described him as a traitor and framed his message as a demand for more air defenses first, followed by continued strikes on Ukraine. The same channel claimed he made the statement before new energy problems were announced and before a partial evacuation of Belgrad residents. A separate propaganda response pushed the treason framing even harder. One Russian propagandist said it was unpleasant to hear something that smelled of betrayal, calling it unacceptable even from a governor. But that is exactly the point. This governor is not an outsider. In Russia, governors are not elected by public vote. They are appointed by the Kremlin, meaning Putin. If an appointed official is publicly telling the center to change course, it tells you how severe the local collapse has become, and then the crisis moved from words to movement. The governor began publicly urging people to leave. In a public comment made on Wednesday, he described the state of power and heating delivery as extremely difficult, critical, and prolonged. He said the situation is almost catastrophic. He urged families with children to evacuate to other regions as quickly as possible, and he urged others to leave if they can. Think about that language. A Russian official is telling Russian citizens to flee their own region because basic systems cannot be restored. For many people, it echoes World War II. Cities under bombardment, civilians relocating, families forced to abandon routines and homes. But the governor's framing carries a darker twist. This time, the flight is not described as escape from a foreign invasion. It is described as the consequence of a decision made in Moscow, now landing on Russian households. Belgrad is also being presented as the beginning, not the end. The energy war is spreading. Last week, while Ukraine was targeting Belgrad power plants, strikes also hit Bryansk's energy sites, and outages followed across many districts. Then, just this morning, the pattern reached Sochi. Sochi is a major Russian tourist city and Putin's favorite Black Sea playground. It is where Putin built his billion-dollar house right on the coast of the Black Sea. Now, according to local resident accounts, Sochi has been under drone strike for approximately 3 hours just last night, and a heating plant appears to have been among the targets. The point is not only that the war has reached another region, the point is that it is reaching places associated with elites, oligarchs, and senior officials, the comfort zones that were supposed to be insulated. And yet, even as regions go dark and officials talk about catastrophe, Russian propaganda continues to push a message of escalation, not compromise. On Russian TV, one voice dismissed any peace formula and insisted the only formula is the liquidation of Ukraine as a state. The message is blunt. They do not want peace. They want surrender. That is the contradiction now tearing through Russia's own interior story. Belgrad is freezing, systems are failing, evacuations are being urged, and a Kremlin-appointed governor is publicly warning that the strategy is backfiring. Meanwhile, the loudest voices still demand total victory, as if the costs are not already visible at home. If you want more reports like this, please like, subscribe, comment, and share. It tells the algorithm this matters, and it helps others find the analysis. And tell me what you think. When the energy war reshapes life inside Russia, does the Kremlin adapt, or does it keep pushing until more regions look like Belgrad?